Okay, hi friends, it's Angie, Angela Power Disney, angelascashes.org. Please subscribe and like and share and all that jazz. Um, I'm making a video inspired by people around me about mental health challenges and mental health injuries and the particular flashpoint that comes after Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, all that jazz. And there is statistics that show that suicide takes a big hike and divorce and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to address that. And I've been having conversations with really uh, close associates who are also survivors of trauma in early childhood and constant trauma, um, and PTSD and there's so many labels, but both he and I are reluctant to go and medicate with antidepressants or substances in general. And the truth is, we need to network, we need to educate ourselves, we need to, in my opinion, pray and just ride the storm. So, I managed to have, I'm subject, and I admit this, I am subject to what I call rage outbursts, which is where I was so compliant as a child that I would not express anger or resentment, but it would build up inside me. And then I was subject to having an outburst, which was irrational and, out of balance, and I would just like shout the place down. I'm not violent. I've never been violent in my adult life. The only violence I could accuse myself of was karate sparring matches with my Irish twin, 11 months older than me, in our early teens. And once pushing another sister, just pushing her, but I felt so guilty. I'm not a violent person. I am of the generation. I'm 67. I'm going to be 68 this year. And my generation did believe in corporal punishment. And I did discipline my children 2 or 3 times a year. I was raising 3 children on my own, and two of whom had DID, and all of whom were Aries and Rams. And sometimes I'm sorry, they got 3 whacks. Nothing, nothing serious. Um, but that was just my generation, and like I've said in multiple previous videos, I wouldn't do that with my grandchildren, and I know there's a better way. But at the same time, I see videos of children who get given time out and they still act like demon possessed, entitled monsters. So my kids turned out pretty well, and that's good enough for me. So, but I did have one rage outburst on New Year's Eve. And it was after Aaron and I had done our last video where I was pretty upset with Terry Joyce and Tara McMahon, Weston, blah, blah, blah. And I was just finally getting in touch with my anger about the latest attack. And so I was fairly fired up, and I went in the house, and then my 27-year-old just got feisty with me, and he just forgot that he's moved out, and he's got his own house and his own life, and he doesn't have the childish right to shout and roar at his mother. So, in response to that, I shouted and roared louder. But I know a lot of people go through that where they through the holiday period where everybody might be imagining that everybody else is having the perfect Hallmark holiday. Um, and that's an illusion, but and then you meet up with family, and then resentments that have been buried, anger that's been suppressed, secrets that have been kept. Somehow it's very hard to escape Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever holiday gathering, Hanukkah, whatever you might call it, it's hard to escape without somebody exploding. So, like I said, I had my explosion verbally on New Year's Eve, but I learned a new lesson, which is sometimes because as a compliant, people-pleasing child, as a result of trauma-based mind control, I always blame myself. If there's an anger outburst, I immediately go into shame and guilt, and I immediately go into fix it, fix it. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so ashamed, I'm so guilty. But I prayed and I realized that, do you know what? No, that's not always the case. And sometimes it's a case of people breaching your boundaries or triggering you, and we're not, we don't have to be precious about, oh, you can't trigger me, I'm a victim. No, no, but if somebody uh, kind of gaslights you or goes after you or disrespects your boundaries, you actually have a right to be angry. Maybe not outrageously acting out angry, but you do have a right to be angry. And so that was a real revelation. And I did not do my normal kowtowing, please forgive me thing. I just prayed and let it be. And my son apologized to me the next day. And we created new understanding and boundaries and so on and so forth. But I just want to say that there are so many suffering, even suffering from uh, childhood trauma without all the added insanity of what's going on in the world at the moment. So we had the big pandemic since 2020, and then there's like it's all insanity. It's like war in Russia and Ukraine and war in um, Israel and Gaza and possible war in China, Taiwan and then possible war between Iran and like blah blah blah, World War Three, and drones in the sky, chemicals, fake, strange illnesses. There's so much going on that it's really important to get grounded and not to go under during this time. And one of my beloved colleagues, like, to be honest, most of my close contacts have gone through trauma over the last 2 weeks. Like, one discovered she has terminal cancer. She's only 50 something. One lost the father of her child, although she's not with him anymore. But it was that they had a very workable and loving co-parenting relationship, and that shocked her. And then another another death. There was oh yeah, another death. Somebody lost their mother age 54. Like all these young deaths are pretty shocking. I was, I suppose, lucky enough that my parents didn't die till they were 87 and 95. So I had time to prepare myself. But for people that lose children, I can't put myself in their position. I can't imagine the agony. Is so unnatural to lose a child. And then people that even lose their parents in their 50s, you know, um, it's all these died suddenlies are very alarming. But also the trauma of um, just imagining that everybody else is having a normal life and we're not, and being isolated and being, you know, like just crazy. And what something I've found helpful, because I've got a stalker projecting like crazy, trying to incite people to section me, when in fact it was her brother that tried to get her sectioned. It's like confession by projection. And I've got a very supportive medical team and a counselor and friends, not many. You might have only one real life friend. My car is off the road and I tried to walk to town today and it was so treacherous. Just ice, it didn't snow much, but it's totally frozen. And I flagged a car down and just said, I'm too scared to walk down the hill. Will you drive me? And he did, but it's like, the temptation is to lock yourself in your house and just hunker down, whatever it's called, and isolate. And, and I just recommend that people, um, I recommend that you really pray to upgrade your discernment of what you digest online because alternative media has been infiltrated. So a lot of the so-called good guys are putting out fear porn, they're putting out fake remedies and grifting and uh, end times, not end times, like millennial reign, not millennial reign. Um, we're on information overload. So my closest colleague that I work with, I've got a team to be honest, and they're great. But one of my team is who lost her baby daddy, and she's processing that. And so many people have been through tragedies like deaths and things, like real tragedies. And I try to say to myself, oh, don't feel so sorry for yourself. Do you know what I mean? There's people worse off than you, but that's no comfort when you are suffering from chronic depression and anxiety and CPTSD. It does you no good whatsoever when someone says, oh, there's people much worse off than you. Why aren't you grateful? I do practice gratitude, but there are some times when it's like, you have no idea what it is to walk in my shoes. You have no idea. So don't even go there. So, is there anything you want to say, uh, or shall we?
Yes, yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, um, yeah, this particular time, Christmas, New Year, um, especially people that uh, are alone, living on their own, they are in the biggest trouble when everyone's seeing each other, everyone's seeing their family, and they feel like I'm all alone. And then the anxiety, the depression kicks in. And I have a severe anxiety um, that developed into chronic depression. I have a massive PTSD since my childhood. And I did have my outburst as well, uh, um, just like you had with your son. But we solved it, and then I went and found this lady online, psychiatrist, explaining things about anxiety, and I started watching her videos, and it was a revelation. So basically, almost immediately, say even in one day, I my mindset completely changed, and yes, as you said, the willingness to isolate yourself. Like I was isolating myself so badly um, that to a level where I can't even go to the local shop, let alone local pub to see friends, and it just became ridiculous. And yeah, so isolation is not the solution. You have to put yourself out there. You have to stick your nose out the door and get out there. Yeah. So basically, we have to work with ourselves. We have to really find a way to wake up and not punish ourselves, because we do punish ourselves by isolating, by trying to avoid the problem when we should face it. We should face it, because when you face it, eventually you realize that it's not as bad as you thought. We just create that picture in our heads where oh, the world is nasty, this is it, I'm all alone, this is it. No, no, you're still alive, you're still breathing, you're still you're still there, and there is a reason why you're not dead yet. So well, therefore I think we should put a link under this
Yeah,
video
no,
to.
we will. And I just want to share a fascinating conversation because Aaron and I both have a fascination with English language, even though I'm Anglo-Irish, he's Lithuanian, but he's trilingual and I speak five languages. And it's hilarious because he's Lithuanian, but when we're blogging, he corrects my punctuation. And then I laugh. I just say this is too funny. It's like I've got an English degree and a journalism postgrad, and here you are correcting. But he's right. I'm lax on punctuation. But what I also remarked when Aaron recommended this particular YouTube channel of the science of trauma, the science of you're not imagining it. There's a reason you can't wake up, there's a reason you're depressed in the morning. There's a reason your sleep pattern is bad. There's a reason you have highs and lows. But I listened to this podcaster, which we're going to share in a blog and in the link below. But there's this habit on YouTube, on social media, where they edit out the uh, the gaps, the pauses when you speak. Like for now, just for example, there are natural pauses. And I was sharing with Aaron that I got the English prize at Fitzmaurice Grammar, and I think really what nailed it was I did an exam essay on the pregnant pause as it related to Harold Pinter. Harold Pinter was a playwright and he was absolutely brilliant. His plays would have these pauses that would force the audience to go inside themselves and like, how does this relate to me? Not just what am I watching on a stage? And I remember Rupert saying that Paul Joseph Watson imitated him. Rupert was an early person that did that kind of editing where you edit out every pause. And to me, it sounds like a lot of the modern day YouTubers, it sounds to me like they've had too much coffee or Adderall or something. It's like it makes me anxious. It makes me anxious to listen to videos trying to tell me how to be balanced and healthy when they're talking 90 miles an hour and never take a breath. And they literally edit the breaths out. And then Aaron said to me, "Yeah, I did an essay about punctuation." And he went deep into the thing about exclamation marks and what does this mean
Yeah,
and
the meaning of exclamation mark in poetry, and yeah, it's sort of the same thing. That pause or this punctuation, um, everything has a deep meaning,
it
and
does.
with that, with a pause, like these YouTubers edit out all the pauses, and then naturally our brain is not it's not made to um, but to be overloaded with information extra quickly.
Yes, overstimulation. And we are designed to breathe. And what one solution Aaron found was he stops. Now I'm not denigrating the videos because the information is brilliant. But what Aaron does to solve the mega fast no pause presentation is he pauses the video and digests something that resonates and processes
Yes,
that.
for example, when you're listening to this lady's psychiatrist, she's explaining anxiety, explaining the reasoning, but she's doing it really fast. So then when he hits me, oh, that's me. Then I pause it and
Yeah.
sit there,
Yeah.
digest, understand, and then continue.
and then
So
continue.
I recommend pausing and that to understand because the information is brilliant. It's just extra
It's just
fast.
too fast. It's information overload, which is what a lot of us are suffering from. And the other option is that when you watch a YouTube video, you can go to settings and you can slow it down or speed it up. And sometimes when I do a rambling video, I suggest people speed it up to 1.25 or, even 1.5. But in this occasion, where you've got people that have edited out all the natural pauses that humans have in their speech and communication, I would recommend if you don't do Aaron's suggestion of pausing the video, that you can actually slow it down and watch it on 1.5 or 1.75. So that's a couple of tips there. And just the other thing I've noticed I'm doing lately in terms of discernment is I'm tuning into frequency and voices. And if somebody's voice grates on me, and I'm not referring at this moment to the person we're going to feature in this blog, but if a video you're watching, if they seem to be saying good things, but the voice absolutely is like nails on a chalkboard, it like just grates on you, I just tune out. I just think that's not my frequency. That may be good information, but I can't resonate. And there's a very deep meaning to resonating. So if you resonate with somebody's voice or presentation, um, then I would say, follow that. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. There are the Samaritans. I do have people reach out to me, suicidal, and I've been parasuicidal on and off, for decades. And I've realized it's not me, it's a voice outside of me. And I would never do that to myself or my children or my grandchildren or my loved ones. But I do recognize when the parasuicidal thoughts come, and I do recognize it's not me, it's something outside of me. But when people reach out to me suicidal at 4 in the morning, my health is not good enough. And even though I've counseled thousands over decades, I can't be a suicide hotline. So I would recommend, the first line of defense I would recommend is prayer. The second line of defense is there are organizations like the Samaritans and um, there are people you can reach out to. You can even post online and get a welfare check, one of which I've had in the past. Um, um, but it's like I can't be all things to all men, but I can point you in the right direction. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody, I'm sure you've experienced this, Aaron, where people have rung, well, I know you have because you told me, but where people have contacted you, oh, I'm suicidal, help, help, help. And then you go into multiple panic and everything goes upside down and it's all chaos. And then, it turns out that they survived, So I'm just saying we can't all be our brother's keeper or our sister's keeper, but we can at least direct them in the right. To me, there's no better place to go than on your knees and cry out to Jesus, because that's all that's kept me alive. So,
And even though, for example, in my case, I'm depressed myself and anxious, and um, but I'm a big helper. I'm always ready to help someone else because I know how it feels. I'm very empathic, and it doesn't really double up depression or anxiety when you're helping someone else. But um, uh, and for a moment, actually, I forget I forget about my own problem
yeah,
because their problem is bigger than mine, and in my understanding, and that sort of helps me for a moment.
yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
But I think what you and I have learned, we've worked together for 4 years, and I've been online since about 2009 working on this, and long before that in my real life. But I think what you and I have both learned is that if we don't take care of ourselves, that we can't help anybody. How could we help anybody if we are in a state of such acute depression and anxiety? Like I'm getting stalked. Another stalker came to my door last night at 9 o'clock. If we, I'm getting court cases thrown at me with different paedophile rings. If we don't take care of us, if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we possibly help anybody else? How can we?
Yes, I'm lucky. I have
Yeah, you've got a
a
good,
brilliant
yeah, yeah,
partner,
you
the
do.
love of my life,
Yeah, yeah. But
and
even then, remember what I said to you yesterday? Sometimes if I complain to the right person that I'm really, really down, they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky you've got children and they're so good to you and you've got a house and blah blah blah. Like, why are you complaining?" And sometimes if people say to you, "You're so lucky you've got a supportive partner and you're kind of fairly well off and blah blah blah," but it's like that's no comfort when you are in agony. Depression, anxiety, parasuicidal thoughts, it's not a class thing. It's not about how rich or poor you are. I always laugh that when when I didn't like some food I was given as a child, I would say to my mum, I don't like it, and it would make me vomit actually to eat it. Um, and my mother used to say, a starving child in Biafra would be very grateful for that. And in my head, I wanted to say to her, please put it in a box and post it to them because I don't want it. It's like, I don't like it. So this thing of comparing your depression to somebody else's depression and thinking you're not entitled to feel your pain just because there's somebody in more pain than you, that's a tunnel with no cheese. So
every
anyhow,
story is unique. Every
yes,
story
and you're
is unique.
entitled to your emotions. You absolutely are. So I think we're going to do a blog, and I'm not a danger to myself or anybody else. Although it's been a very horrible, I would say 2024 was my annus horribilis, and let's pray that 2025 will be better. And I know that even in the midst of my catastrophes, there's been little signs of hope. Like my car broke down kind of terminally just before Christmas, and my breakdown assist towed it to my mechanic, but he said I can't possibly get to it till after Christmas. But then a Polish friend who was going home for Christmas lent me his vehicle for 2 weeks. It's just like, I'm like, crazy question, can I borrow your car? He's like, yeah, perfect. I'm going home. Here it is. And then I just discovered today that my breakdown assist covers a rental car. So it's like, even amongst all the, like I tried to walk to town today and I had to flag a car down in case I would fall. Uh, but even amongst all the horrible stuff, if you look, there's silver linings. There definitely are silver linings.
There are good people. There are
Yeah,
good signs. Not
yeah,
everything is lost.
yeah. Even though it feels like it is, and if you feel that way, and if you need to embrace, a couple of days in bed under the duvet, if you need to embrace the isolation sometimes, then let it be a time of reflection and prayer and um just we need to stop beating ourselves up. We need to stop blaming, like there's another expression, depression is righteous anger turned in on yourself. So like you had there's a bird. How sweet. I'm just looking. Oh, how sweet. Right. Yeah, there is a place for righteous anger. And if you don't know a healthy way to express it, you will either have a rage outburst or you'll direct it in on yourself and be depressed. So
We are bottling it. We're bottling it up,
yeah,
bottling it up
yeah,
without realizing,
yeah, yeah, and
and
that
then
and that
we.
Yeah,
and then we explode. Yeah.
has to explode. Okay, I really appreciate that. We're going to blog this and we're going to share this particular woman's video channel. And as I say, you can either pause it like Aaron does, or you can play it at slower pace, or you can find other resources. The only thing Aaron and I are agreed on is we're not fond of the solution of just give me antidepressants, just give me Prozac or Xanax or whatever they call
No,
it.
it's it's depression, anxiety, post-traumatic disorder. It's already a trigger to go self-medicate or
Yeah,
try
yeah,
and find a way to calm down or escape the situation.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and getting on yet another addictive
Yeah,
medication
yeah,
is not
absolutely.
a solution.
No, it's not.
We have to
Not.
work with ourselves.
And
Yeah.
I have to say that sometimes I think with acute depression, sometimes a 6 week course of meds can help. I'm not on any antidepressant medication. I do take blood pressure meds, which I've reduced, and I take inhalers, and that's it. Vitamin D as well. But like, I personally don't like the pharmaceutical route, although for some, a short term. But I know people that got addicted to diazepam benzos, and they could never get off them. It was like even Jordan Peterson went to Russia to try and get off benzos. Um, it can be more addictive than heroin, you know. So just be careful of the medical solutions, although don't discount them altogether. And embrace if you need to isolate for a while, embrace that. But mostly what we want to say is you're not alone. There are resources, and the internet is not all bad. It can be very evil, but it can also give you access to support, which is free. So we're going to share
Yeah.
that
And
resource.
and sorry, I wanted to add, when you're alone and you feel like uh, there's no escape from this darkness that you're in, reach out for your GP. Your GP will always help. They
Not
know what
always, not
they're doing.
always, not always, not always. My
Well,
GP,
my GP, I had a brilliant GP,
yeah,
and
there are good ones. Yeah, mine
yeah,
rang me.
and I
Mine
went
rang
to
me.
see a psychiatrist and
Yeah. No,
who,
I have a great GP at the moment. She even rang me yesterday just to check in on me. But my previous GP, it could take 10 days to get a visit, let alone a phone call, let alone a referral. So, you know, and
but
the
and
other thing,
not only I reached out. Well, first I went to a very expensive celebrity, celebrity psychologist in London,
okay.
and it took me 3 sessions, but only helped me temporarily. I thought I'm all right, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Then I had a breakdown again,
Yeah.
and that terrible depression,
Yeah.
almost suicidal. And then I turned to BetterHelp, and that psychologist was brilliant, very good.
Okay. We'll look into that.
But the problem is, I still haven't met a psychologist who actually gives you the facts, what your problem is, where it comes from, how to deal with it, give you tips what to do or something. No, they sit there and listen for your
Yeah. Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. I
They
hate,
sit there listening to your blabber, and that's all
no, no
for
good.
whatever ridiculous money an hour,
I know.
and that's not help.
No, no,
They
it's
need
not.
to give you reasons. They need to explain your problem,
But no,
where
but
it
the truth
comes
is, no,
from. They need
no.
to give you tips. So this lady, Emma McAdam, she explains all the reasonings and where it's coming from and how to deal with it. And it's up to you what to do. But actually, that's exactly what we have to do. We have to work with ourselves.
Yeah, and I'll just say, um, that's very good advice. But I'll just say no therapist knows better what happened to us than we do, right? But I totally agree that talk therapy, where they just passively listen, and you go home every week or every 2 weeks after an hour, and you thought, they never gave me one bit of input, one bit of response, one bit of advice, blah blah blah. They just listened. Eventually that becomes futile, and we need more and more therapists who are what they call trauma informed. Now, I see a therapist counselor once a fortnight who's just got his PhD in counseling psychotherapy. Um, and it's only just starting to sort of click, really, since everything kicked off and I started getting stalked and things got dangerous. He's really sort of woken up to, wow, this is real, this is really real. But so, the classic advice, find a therapist if you can. There are many that will offer reduced cost or means tested therapy. Especially if you, like with me, I agreed to be this therapist was doing his PhD, and he gave me a hugely discounted fee because he was studying DID, and I agreed to be, a guinea pig. Um, but like, if you don't get the right therapist, move on, and if you can't find one at all, do look online. And ultimately, the best therapy, when I've been the most parasuicidal in my life, is when I've just cried out to Jesus and said, look, either you help me or I'm gone. I want out, Stop the world. I want to get off. But look, let's leave it on a good note, and we'll blog this and we'll add the therapy channel that you found, and
Yes, Emma McAdam.
yeah, and
Yes.
just encourage people to go, if you can't afford a therapist, if you're isolated, if you're disabled like me, you there are good sides to the internet, and you will be able to find resources. So thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Aaron, for joining me, because we both wanted to address this issue. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. God bless. Uh, like, subscribe, blah, blah. Thank you.